American Prairie attends the Prairie Land Heritage Museum Steam Show and Fall Festival in South Jacksonville, Illinois.
All right. This is the ham and bean kitchen. We cook ham and beans in these stainless steel aluminum pots with this steam engine every year for our show. It's one of our signature things that we do.
Located in west central Illinois, the Prairie Land Heritage Museum is 38 miles from Springfield, Illinois, 69 miles from Hannibal, Missouri, and 92 miles from St. Louis, Missouri. This and more coming up on American Prairie.
It looks delicious.
Wow.
Funding for American Prairie has been provided by Bob Ridings Ford, Taylorville, Illinois. Sloan Implement, Verdon, Illinois. Brandt Consolidated, Waverly, Illinois. And from our patrons at patreon.com, who are viewers like you. Thank you.
Heritage Museum Steam Show and Fall Festival in South Jacksonville, Illinois is held annually on the last full weekend of September.
The bandstand was part of the developmental center, the mental health department center over here in Jacksonville for many years, and there was 3 of them. And they got the one and took it to Smithsonian for 20 years, and they wanted to put something else in the place of that in Washington, D.C., so they wanted it to come back to Jacksonville. And Jacksonville, the city, did not want that at that time, so they offered it to us, and we took the opportunity to take it, and it came in 16 crates, and we took it and we had to sand it all down and put undercoat on it and painted it, a lot of it 2 coats. So we got it constructed in about 2-3 years ago, and it took quite all summer to reconstruct the bandstand, and we have bands on it, and we have weddings on it, and really it's really an attraction that people come to from out of state and see it. And it's really been a good addition to Prairie Land Heritage Museum.
Kitchen. We cook ham and beans in these stainless steel aluminum pots with this steam engine every year for our show. It's one of our signature things that we do. This steam engine came from Wasion, Ohio in like 1972. And we cooked ham and beans all over Menard County and Salmon County. We used to have a truck. We take the bean kettle and this engine, and we go put on ham and beans and cornbread at county fairs and that kind of stuff. So we've done that for a lot of years. We don't take it on the road anymore. We don't have enough help. So that, I think that is a common problem that everybody has. So, but anyway, we cook it at about 20 pounds, and we cook about 250 pounds of ham and beans per day. And generally they start serving at 11, and generally by 1 o'clock we're sold out. So, and there's about 40 trays of cornbread and 250 pounds of ham and beans. So.
Enjoy. Have a good day. Hello. Hi. How are you? What? How about that? It's not. Remember.
Okay.
What do we have good for dessert here?
We've got this triple berry pie that's fantastic. It's blueberry, raspberry, and blackberry. We also have this wonderful pecan over here, and it tastes really good. That's my personal favorite.
Do you make that?
No, but it's excellent anyway.
Okay.
Then we have a rhubarb over here that's been popular, and gooseberry.
I see.
We always sell 4 gooseberry pies a day at this show, and usually they're long gone by now, but today it's a little slower.
Yeah,
so
okay.
It's not going quite as fast.
Okay. Well, thank you so much.
You gonna have ham and beans today?
Not today, but
Shame on you.
I had some yesterday.
Well, then you did try them, so that's good.
Yeah.
I'm not familiar with sorghum making, and I'd like to know a little bit more about the process and how you got into it, and maybe I'd like to try some as well, if you wouldn't mind. That would be great. So
I got into it by just helping out.
Okay.
And then the guy that really does it, he wanted to retire, so I took over
Okay.
the best I could. And my granddaughter, she's over there. She's the one that really took a hold of it.
Oh wow. So
That's her over there in the orange cap, firing up the fire.
so where do you get the sorghum at? Do you grow it yourself, or?
We grow it right here on the grounds, just over here, in between the railroad tracks.
Wow. Wow.
It's over on the south side.
So
This is what it looks like.
I see.
We cut the tops off, the leaves is all off.
Okay. Okay. So how many years have you guys been doing this sorghum making?
Oh, I'd say myself, me and my granddaughter about 4 years.
4 years. Wow.
But I helped out before that.
Okay.
Trying to get to learn how to do it.
So what's the next step after you harvest and you cut the top off of it? What's the step to get the juice, I guess you would say?
Well, the next thing you cut it off and haul it in here to the press. And you see that big gear over there, there it runs a press.
Okay.
And it presses the juice out and it runs down into that tank.
All right.
We strain it.
Okay.
We strain it, and then we pump it over here and put it in a.
Can we take a look at the press there? Sure. All right. Let's go check it out.
juice runs into that tank over there, and then we pump it with that little pump down there on the ground over to the big tank
Okay.
for cooking.
Mm-hmm.
Then that comes over here and we're cooking.
Now, do you have any idea how many gallons of sorghum this is? That looks like quite a bit.
Yeah, it is.
It looks like you could make about 200 bottles with that, at least.
We had
200 jars.
How many jars we have?
Yesterday, 65 pints and 24 quarts.
65 pints,
18 gallons in total.
18 gallons.
14.
Was it about that full? So it was about 14 gallons worth of sorghum molasses. Wow. So,
It'll cook down there. It'll only be about that deep on that whole tank.
wow. So, what's the next process after this? I mean, what you cook it down, and then what?
You'll have green come up on top. We skim all that off.
Okay,
That's the impurities,
Okay.
and then it'll start to turn brown as it gets lower down.
I see. And then
Whenever
what?
it gets closer, you can make a string with it that long,
So,
and that'll tell you it's done.
so once it's all cooked down, that's not in liquid form. That makes it string.
It's still liquid, but it's real sticky.
Okay. Gotcha. And you guys mix that with anything else, or is that
No.
pure
Straight
sorghum?
from the cane.
Wow. So there's no additional sweetener or anything else like that. It's just
Nope.
pure,
All we do is cook the
all
water out of
natural.
it.
Wow. That's cool. All natural. All right. I'd be happy to have some. I'm actually very excited to try it. I've never had sorghum molasses before. Wow. Look at that. Looks delicious. Mmm. Wow. That's incredible. So what would you put that on again?
Pancakes, wherever you put syrup.
Wherever you'd put syrup.
Yeah, wherever you like syrup on, right there, replace it.
That is delicious.
We got a name and telephone number on there.
Since 1969. Wow. That is nifty.
Watching this steam-powered sawmill is another favorite of spectators.
Forward and reverse. This here is like a throttle, opens the valve to put the steam in the cylinder. This is like a clutch, it puts those against the flywheel, makes the gears turn, makes it roll.
Very cool.
Yeah, it runs on coal, it's like a big teapot to get the water hot. That's what makes it run, steam.
So this is all steam.
All steam. Yep. Steam traction engine they call it.
So
50 horse case, 1915. We're the third owners of it. This is brand new.
this is 1915.
Yes, sir. 1950. 50 horse. So it makes the steam right there.
Wow.
Burning coal.
So you throw in the coal right into there.
Yep. Yep. Shovel right in.
Go ahead, bump it.
Okay. Stop it.
New Baden, Illinois. This is my wife, Mary Keith.
Okay.
And we collect David Bradley garden tractors.
Okay.
We have a 32-foot box trailer sitting behind us, and it is full of David Bradley stuff as far as the garden end of it. We have a 1939 Handyman RT. We have a tri-track sitting on the left side of me. We have two of them to walk behind. The attachments that they used to plow the gardens with years ago in the 50s. In the 1950s, their normal gardens was around an acre, so they used the potatoes, the tomatoes and everything and put them in fruit cellars. And when they did that, they kept produce all year. Bradley plant is in Bourbonnais, Illinois, or Bradley, Illinois. It's Bourbonnais Bradley. It's north of Kankakee, the next exit up on Route Interstate 57 in Illinois here. Bradley started in 1939. Like I say, I have a handyman over there. And then in 1954, he introduced the tri-tracks here. There were 3,500 tri-tracks made from 1954 to 1957 that was sold. He made all the tri-tracks in 1954. When he sold the tri-tracks, it was called a successful failure because the tri-tracks never did go over big. He had many problems. You were a little underpowered. He tilted over because you were a three-wheel type tractor. It had one wheel in the back, two wheels in the front. He did close his plant down from 1941 to 1946 and made 4.5-inch piercing shells for the Navy. He come back in 46 and he introduced the bullet tractor that everybody says, I got one of them. And then he built them until about 1956. He did introduce the Suburban, which is basically a lawn tractor you see right now, like the Craftsman lawnmowers. He introduced them in 59 to approximately 63. He closed the plant 62, 63, and a guy named Roper took it over then. And Roper tractors that was built in the Bradley plant up there in Bourbonnais from 62 to 82. In 82, he closed the plant up. He sold out. In 1986, the plant burnt. The plant did not burn that extremely bad where didn't burn the whole plant down. It burned about a quarter of the plant. The plant still stands up in Bourbonnais right now. Come by, you can pull us up on YouTube. You can see the David Bradley Traveling Museum on YouTube.
It's not really running on the engine. The engine just ties it into the engine, so the belt and pulley is all fake. There's actually a small garden tractor battery inside with an electric motor with a speed control on it, so I can set the timing of the clogging of the dowels. The dowels were cut out a 3/4-inch pine on a bandsaw and just painted and dressed up. And there's a camshaft in there, and these rods hit that camshaft and they pop it, about a 1/2 inch up in the air, and that's what gives them the clogging effect. And an endless loop cassette recorders playing the music. But I put a remote control on it so I can stop them anytime I want.
Oh wow,
and this is something that kids get fascinated by because we tell them you can stop and start it just by telling them. And they'll say stop dancing and they stop, and then they'll say start dancing. They start dancing. They don't see me.
They don't see you with the remote. That is funny. That's great. So when did you make this? How long ago?
About 2000, I would say, or 1999. 2000.
That's really cool.
Yeah, it's been around.
That's nifty. You mind if we look inside the back there?
You can. It's kind of a mess.
Wow.
We chew up a few belts, tape in the amplifier, remote control, speed control for the dowels and the remote. This is a Ruston Hornsby, and 10 horsepower. It's the only one in the United States. There are smaller engines and bigger ones, but this is the only 10 AP, which is a side shaft, double flywheel engine.
Okay.
I bought it in 2001 in England, Boston, England. It was made in Lincoln, England, and I had it shipped over here with the help of some engine collector friends in Leicester, England.
Okay.
So,
very
anyway,
cool.
Yeah, it blew my whole engine budget for several years.
Oh, I'm sure.
But it's quite a unique piece.
Oh yeah, it looks like it. Let me get the sign here. Wow. So this was designed in England. Built in England.
Yep.
One of a kind.
It's just the United States.
So what would this be used for? What would you?
This company ran a commercial manufacturing, and this drove a line shaft, which is the pulley on it would have drove a shaft that went the length of a building, and on that shaft would be pulleys and then belts that come down to different machines. And they could drive anything from sewing machines to saws, hammer mills, all kinds of things.
I see.
But so one engine would drive a whole little factory.
Wow.
With maybe 20 guys working.
Yeah. That's impressive.
Sometimes these were even not in the building. They would be outside, and they'd run a belt up to a shaft and take it inside.
Yeah. That's really neat. I appreciate you showing me that.
Not a problem. That's why we bring them out.
Yeah.
We just like to show people.
So this, and you said this weighs over a ton.
2,200 pounds on the cart.
2,200 pounds.
Yeah. I'd say the engine is a full ton by itself. But it's those massive flywheels that have all the cast iron in them.
Oh yeah.
This is a real antique, 1914. And this is my winter project now. This one will be all sanded down and ground and repainted in the factory colors and factory pinstripes. There's just a little pinstripe left on it, so I can kind of get the idea of what to go by.
And you just got this one?
Yeah, 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago maybe. So we brought it out here, and it's been running just fine. It's 4 horsepower for as big as it is.
And this is USA.
Yeah.
1914.
1914. It's made in Freeport, Illinois, by the Raleigh Prairie Company.
Okay. And
that company burned down in 1916, so they went out of business. So
wow.
They were really only made from like 1912 to 1916.
Now, do you know if this went through the fire?
No, this one didn't. No. No. When the fire burned down, they lost everything and went out of business.
Oh, wow. It's a shame. But at least you got something from the factory,
Well, actually, in Illinois, at one time or another, there were 70 different engine manufacturers in Illinois.
Wow.
And some of them were real small. Could have been, just 5 guys working in a little homemade foundry in some little town. But anyway, according to records, they've documented there were 70 engine companies in Illinois.
Wow.
Not all as big as this.
So this is one of them, isn't it?
Yeah.
And this is another kind of small industrial type machine.
I'm sure it was, yeah. Or it could have been used on a bigger farm. Farmers used all these engines to pump water, to grind corn into flour or into meal for the chickens. They mixed cement with them. They'd have a cement mixer that would be belt driven off. They'd run buzz saws to cut firewood up.
Okay.
There was a lot of applications.
Yeah.
But the smaller engines, like the Little Red Economy, there were more of what were typical around a farm for pumping water.
Okay.
And big ones like this were used to run conveyors, getting corn up into a crib, and like I said, buzz saws and stuff that needed more horsepower.
I see. Well, I really appreciate you showing us around. So thank you.
Have an interest.
Yeah, thank you very much, sir. I appreciate it. You have a good day.
You too.
what the process is here.
Well, first it starts with the wheat grown in the field, then it gets stacked on the wagons, it's binded, where a binder comes through, and it'll wrap a string around the wheat, and it'll drop shucks is what they're called. They'll drop them on the ground, guys will go around, pick them up, stack them on the wagon. Then we've got our bundle pitches up here. They grab them by the twine, they feed them into the feeder, which is the entrance to the separator. And it'll go in and it'll get the grain separated from the wheat using the shaker that runs the length of the machine. It'll shake the grain away from the straw. It goes through an auger, and it'll come back up the elevator, go back through the feeder again, get shaken again, and then the grain gets dumped into the grain wagon on the left side of the machine, and then the straw comes out the back through the stacker. It's a fairly simple process. It's basically the same thing a combine is nowadays. It's just not self-propelled. They use this from about the late 1890s to as late as the 1940s and even into the early 50s, depending on where you were at, depending on what type of equipment was had. A lot of guys did custom threshing. They'd go around from farm to farm and thresh all the grain. These machines were expensive back in the day, and not everybody had it. So a lot of guys contracted it out and did custom rigs with it. So this is a Keck Gonnerman machine. It's a 36-inch feeder and a 62-inch machine. And it was the top of the line Keck Gonnerman offered back in the day. Probably in the neighborhood of probably $1,500, $1,600. So they came in various sizes. We've got a smaller one. And this is about as big as they go. Now we've got an old wooden baker that it's a 36-inch machine too, but it's all wood. So they progress, but they were always the same machine.
Right. Well, thank you very much.
No problem.
And it's off to the field for another day of threshing. And now that the harvest is done, it's time for some fall plowing. Besides antique tractor pulls, horse pulls is another favorite for spectators at the Prairie Land Heritage Museum Steam Show and Fall Festival in South Jacksonville, Illinois. Here are some highlights of the finals.
Which way do you want to pull, sir? Okay. This is Ted Wilkerson. It's steam weighing 3,700 pounds.
About 40 now. I was going to go 40. It seems like 100.
You went 1 foot 5 inches. Give the big hand. 1 foot 5 inches. Two more. Our next player will be Bob Rucker with the Iowa, Missouri, with a pair weighing 3,800. Third place will go to John Hammond. Guys, so you went all the way through on the full quarter. And you got Ted Wilkerson, you got 1.5. Bob's got to pull it over a foot, 5 inches to be the winner. I want to thank the Jacksonville SFA. It's good help. Thank you. Appreciate it. Here's your winner. He got 8'4". Good Bob Rucker from Iowa, Missouri. Big game. Here's your winner today. Bob Rucker pulls at 8'4". In second is Ted Wilkerson with 1.5. In third is John Hammond with his pass that he got. And then Roger Lee with 19 and Clarence Charlie Keene with 2.
If you liked our show, be sure to hit the like button. If you want to see more of our shows, click the subscribe button. And be sure to click the bell beside it to be informed immediately when a new episode is ready to enjoy.
Thank you, and I want to really thank all the viewers.
Funding for American Prairie has been provided by Bob Ridings Ford, Taylorville, Illinois. Sloan Implement, Verdon, Illinois. Brandt Consolidated, Waverly, Illinois. And from our patrons at patreon.com, who are viewers like you. Thank you.